Good evening, everyone, and welcome to YLCC session on Career in Regulatory Litigation with Mr. Aditya Vaibhav Singh, AOR Supreme Court. So, just to introduce sir a little bit here, Mr. Singh is a 2013 Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University graduate, and he is currently the head of chambers at Chambers of Aditya Vaibhav Singh. So, sir started the chambers in 2017. And apart from offering wide range of legal skills as a full-service chamber, the chamber also aims to help first-generation lawyers discover their niche in the profession. So currently, the chambers is focusing on expanding its commercial, corporate, and regulatory litigation practice. So, sir, before we start, is there anything that you would particularly want to address to the students?
Do we have more law students or do we have more professionals? I would just request the participants to just, if they could just text as to if they're law students in which year they're studying, and if they're professionals, if they could just mention that they're practicing advocates or etc. Would that be possible? Just for me to get a general idea.
Yes, sir. I guess everybody can put it in the chat box. So as to what are you currently doing, if you're a student, if you're practicing. Yes, sir. So they're mentioning that in the chat box. We have, so mostly we have law students, second year, first year LLB, third year, there's practicing lawyers as well. So if anybody wants to, like, you can unmute yourself and also speak like what you're doing. You can definitely unmute yourself.
And since there are only 17 participants and I have time on hand today because being a Saturday, unless you people have something else to do, I would, can we have a general introduction or just a 10-second introduction of the participants also? If Khyati, can you permit that to happen?
Yes. Definitely so. Like there's 17 people. So if you all want to, like, you can just unmute yourself, just tell us what you're doing.
You can just call out their names and they can unmute themselves, and then that particular person can introduce himself or herself, and then we can move
on. Sure. So, Saksham, I can see you. Do you want to start?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, sir, and good evening, ma'am. Myself, Saksham Tiwari. I'm a first year law student pursuing my LLB from Chhatrapati Sahauji Maharaj University, Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh. And I have attended some sessions from YLCC. And today, when I have seen a regulatory litigation session going on, so I have joined the session and gained some knowledge, because it will be helpful for me for choosing my career perspective purpose also. Thank you.
Thank you, Saksham. Aditi, I see Aditi's name. Aditi, you want to go next?
Yes. Hi everyone, I'm a third year LLB student from Shankar Rao Chavan Law College, Pune. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Aditi. Next we have Anurag.
Very good evening, everyone. And sir, I'm Anurag Patnaik, pursuing the LLB honors. I'm a third year student. Currently, I'm reading my course in XIM University, Bhubaneswar.
Thank you, Anurag. Next, Arman. We have Arman here.
Hello everyone. Hi, this is Arman Khan. I'm a practicing lawyer, ma'am, and I have been practicing for last 2 years in Delhi. So I have been looking forward for regulatory litigation and looking forward for that.
Okay, thank you so much, Arman. Next we have. Did we have Anurag? Did we cover?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Next, we have Shubham. I can see Shubham next in the list. Shubham here. Okay, so next we can go with Tatyani, if I'm saying it right. Tatyani?
Ma'am, you're referring to me?
No, I was referring to Katyani Mehta, but yes, you can go.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm Pratonik from Indian Institute of Management, Rohtak. I'm a second year student of BBA LLB. Currently, I'm apart from being a law student, I'm also one of the college representative for YLCC in Rohtak. I am really quite interested in business law and other allied sources of commercial law practices, and since regulatory litigation is one of the aspects of that, I am quite interested in litigation.
Thank you so much. Mahesh, we have Mahesh.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mahesh Kumar, and I am from Galgotias University, final year, criminology honors. So I'm looking forward for gaining some knowledge on regulatory litigation and shed some light on career perspectives in future. So that's it.
Okay, great. I see Vashisht here. Do we have Vashisht here?
Good evening, everyone. So I'm currently working as an PhD research analyst in environmental resources management. Prior to that, I completed my master's in regulatory policy and governance from PISS Mumbai, and I did my graduation. I completed my graduation in 2019 in BBLL. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vashisht. Tanya. Tanya here? No worries, Tanya. Then Swati Shah. We have Swati Shah here.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone, and sir. I am in 4th year of my BLLB course. For the physical internships, so far I have done the litigation internship. So when I heard about this regulatory litigation, so I decided to join this workshop, and I'm really excited for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Swati. Saurabh. Is Saurabh here? Yeah.
Yes. Hi, good evening all. I am a practicing tax lawyer. I find the topic to be fascinating, primarily because after liberalization, that is post 1991 or so, we have seen a lot of regulatory bodies being set up by our country. And I feel this is a really interesting area of practice, and that is why I've enrolled and joined today's session. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Then I guess Sanskriti, if I'm not, yes, Sanskriti. We'll have
Hi, good
Sanskriti.
evening. Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. I'm very glad to attend this, and I'm really looking forward to understand the nuances of corporate litigation here. So I am in my 5th year and I'm studying in Nirma University, Ahmedabad. I recently completed my internship in Supreme Court under Additional Solicitor General N. Venkatraman sir. And right now I'm also having a running internship under a senior advocate in Gujarat High Court. So all the advocates that I've been working under are basically people who have niche knowledge in the area of tax and corporate litigation. So therefore I'm looking forward to learn from this sir. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, we did Sanskriti. Saksham. Are you here? Saksham Tiwari?
I think, ma'am, I have already introduced myself.
Already. Yes, sir.
If you...
Gaurav. I think we've not covered Gaurav. Gaurav Kumar, if you've not covered, can you just introduce yourself?
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Hello.
Good evening, Gaurav.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Ma'am, I am 3rd year law student at Fairfield College under GJS IPU. And I have interned with Mr. Sanjay Sen, senior advocate, He has quite good regulatory practice before APTEL and other forum. So I am interested in this area.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gaurav. I think we've covered almost everybody. Is there anybody who's left to introduce themselves?
Hello everyone, I am Ranjit Kumar. I belong to Patna, Bihar. Currently, I am pursuing my master's in criminal law from Central University of Karnataka.
Thank you, Ranjit, for introducing. Anybody else who's left? Okay, sir, I believe we've done with everybody's introductions.
Okay. So, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, good evening, everyone. It is really nice for you to attend. I'm glad that this is a short, small gathering so that we can speak directly and I can discuss your personal questions with you on all the issues which you have raised. I guess that we have people from diverse backgrounds, from professionals to law students. So, apart from regulatory litigation in general, the forms that we received, there were a lot of questions regarding litigation in general. So we'll address that also, but we'll address that post we dealt with the topic in issue, right? So, Saurabh, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So as Saurabh rightly pointed out, that the regulatory sphere in India has become quite dominant post the liberalization sphere. That is post 1991. The government took a step back and there were independent regulators in place to ensure that there is a level playing field between different operators in different domains. So regulatory litigation deals with two parts. One is the domain expertise which you require in different sectors. For example, I specialize mostly in telecom law. So for telecom law, there would be a different set of regulator. For aviation law, there would be a different set of regulator. So for different domains, you would require certain domain expertise, which would involve the regulations, etc., which apply there too. But the reason I'm here today is to discuss the common thread which binds all the regulatory spheres, right? If you are good at certain subjects, it would be very easy for you to switch from one area of law to another. And while dealing with regulatory litigation specifically, because at the end of the day, let me ask you a question. What is a regulation? Who will answer? Anyone can volunteer to answer this. What is the nature of a regulation under law? Any of the participants?
Sir, basically the authority have power to make rules under any statutory act.
Okay. But what would be the essential nature of such a rule? In terms of law, what kind of a law would it be called? Most of you are final year students. Katyayani says law which is made or not passed by the parliament. Anything else? Just answer this in your text box. How many of you have heard the term delegated legislation? Yes. Pratnayanik answers this correctly. Delegated legislation, right? And delegated legislation comes under what sphere? Administrative law.
Yes.
So the first step towards regulatory litigation would be learning your basic concepts of administrative law as to what is delegated legislation, etc. What is the concept of separation of powers? But we also need to understand that administrative law has its roots in constitutional law. So you cannot learn administrative law without having a working knowledge of constitutional law. So your basics should be very clear. What you will do later in life can only be built upon a foundation of what you learned during college. And just in case if you haven't paid attention in college, you can always sit down and read. Mentoring, etc. can come later, because as far as different areas are concerned, be it aviation or be it telecom, Domain expertise you can acquire later. But until and unless you will have sound conceptual knowledge about constitutional law, administrative law, interpretation of statutes, and fourth is contractual law, because there are a lot of statutory and other contracts also in which this sphere also applies, right? So once you have your foundation clear, then switching between one domain to another won't be a difficulty. So this was the first step which I wanted to point out. Then this is what you can do in college, apart from getting good internships, is to read, right? So how many of you have followed what has been taught in administrative law generally and the principles are clear? You can answer in your text box. Have a good working knowledge of administrative law. You can just answer yes in the text box.
Yes, even if you have not, just mention something that, okay, I did or I did not, right? So at least so I can tell you that if you did not, so what you can do to like get better at it, to know more.
So I can see a lot of Latin maxims, right? So you're familiar with the subject. It's just that the basic concepts should be imbibed, right? I cannot encapsulate those concepts to you in this short session, but just having a brief working knowledge of administrative law, on what principles do you challenge a statute, on what principles do you challenge a delegated legislation, right? And apart from the general principles, then you can move to the specific domains, etc. For example, under the TRA Act, there are certain requirements which have to be met while the TRA takes recommendatory actions or regulatory actions, etc. So all these things can be looked into later. But if you don't have a working knowledge of your fundamentals, then entering any arena, be it regulatory or even litigation in general, would be a little difficult for you. So you need not do anything fancy. First of all, just be clear with these 4 subjects. I understand constitutional law is very vast and it cannot be covered by any individual. But your basic textbooks you can cover, right? I don't think that would be much of a task. So that can be your first step towards building a career in regulatory litigation. And even if you don't want to enter into regulatory litigation and you take up any other career option in law, these 4 subjects should be your 4 pillars, because these are your guiding factors while reading law. Because the job of a law school is to make you prepared as to how to read law, right? Once you know how to read law and how to apply law, what is law is something which is ever evolving. Because for example, our understanding of the Companies Act, because a lot of people over here wanted to do corporate litigation. So our understanding about the Companies Act and winding up, etc., the concept there to completely changed once the IBC was introduced in 2016, right? And the last 7 years has been a learning journey for all of us. So laws keep evolving, laws keep amending, laws are repealed. But if you have your fundamentals clear, it would be very easy for you to switch from one domain to another. And domain expertise, as I pointed out earlier, can only be obtained with experience. But once you have these fundamentals in place, then like a musician, you can play any tune once you know your basic scales and chords, right? So having this basic knowledge won't require much time, but you would have to sit down and read it for yourself in order to apply it. So that is the first leg of the questions which I can see, right? This is what you can do in your college days. Then we can proceed as per Khyati wants to proceed. This was a basic primer which I wanted to give you. Yes, Khyati, we can move as per your preparation with respect to the questions which you have received.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Sir, so like we'll go as per the PPT, if that is fine. We had a couple questions that we had prepared that we had gotten from our audience, the students that asked.
Sure.
So we will start with them. I guess we had a question in the chat box as well. So we'll start, if you want, sir, we can start with the one question that I had in the chat box. So that was Arman. Wanted to know, you said that I just wanted to know from sir, if we can start the regulatory litigation all by ourselves, or do we need to work under a senior?
See, I believe not only for regulatory litigation, even for litigation in general, it's always better to start under a senior, right? If you ask my personal opinion, I would say it is imperative to start under a senior, but people have had different journeys and people have made it through their own journeys. But my personal opinion would be that it would be imperative to work under a good senior. There's another debate, seniors who pay well, seniors who don't pay that much, etc. But working under a senior, watching someone works, if there's a senior who has a good quantity of work, etc., who can trust you, delegate work to you before you step out on your own, will help you with your confidence also in general. And then you can focus on the domain of law in which you want to excel, right? Most of you cannot decide on day one before entering into the in any field that I will venture into this area of practice, because once you pass out of law school, you only have theoretical knowledge about different subjects. You don't have a working knowledge about the subjects, which you only get to know once you get to apply them. See, a good chamber, for example, you can always join a chamber which has work in that area of law in which you want to specialize. But landing up that chamber again is a very a difficult thing and only happens by chance, right? So for the first 2 years, it's better to have a general chamber which has a lot of work, right? You should build on your core principles. I'm talking about litigation as of now. So, for example, if you want to build upon procedure, choose a chamber which does some work in the trial courts or some work on the original side if the High Court has an original side. For example, in Delhi, the Delhi High Court has an original and a commercial side also. It has a commercial division also. So we do benefit by that. For example, most of the suits which I did in the early part of my career, I graduated and started practicing in 2013. At that point of time, the jurisdiction of the Delhi High Court was only 20 lakhs, right? So a lot of suits were there in the Delhi High Court itself. So most of my time was spent on the original side in the Delhi High Court itself. Later on, the jurisdiction got increased and cases got transferred. So so you need to have some original side experience or any if you want to practice on the civil side. For example, if you want to do regulatory litigation, you should be aware of the basic principles of civil law, right? It's very difficult to switch from a completely specialized practice in criminal law to regulatory litigation, because having a basic working knowledge of the basic principles of civil law is of utmost essence if you want to practice regulatory law, apart from these 4 areas of law which I just pointed out. So for the first 2 years, what I would say is that you can join any senior who has good work, right? And who gives you good exposure and at least some exposure on the original side before you decide to step into other areas of law. My personal experience has been switching from civil to criminal as broad areas of law, as someone also had this question, is simpler rather than switching from criminal law to civil law. If you have a working knowledge of civil law, then migrating into any area of law becomes very easy, right? And you can only learn procedure, because most of these laws are procedural also, by attending court and assisting your senior court in the initial years. So once you're confident that you can handle matters on your own, etc., then you can decide an area of specialization for yourself. And then after 2 years, then you can apply to seniors in which someone is practicing in an area of law where you want to specialize. And then that could be your second step. I know the process which I'm pointing out is a little slow process, but it is an organic process. I cannot give you a magic wand which would make you a regulatory litigation lawyer as soon as you pass out of college. And I understand that a lot of students, and in fact, I was also very impatient when I passed out in 2013. I'm about to complete 10 years into practice. But sometimes I also have this feeling of unrest that things should happen quickly. But the more organically we develop, the more sustainable will be that growth, right? Because as litigating lawyers, this is not a profession where you have a retirement age for yourself. This is something which you will do for the rest of your life. So it is better to build your foundation under a senior before taking the next step. That would be my advice to you, but the choice is yours. I hope I've answered this question.
Arman, that was your question.
Arman,
so if there is
anything else?
Hi, good evening, sir. I want to ask one question. So, as you said that when you passed out back in 2013, you were like not that much patient, let's say. And so I want to know that what, like, as you said, it's a slow process, it's an organic process. I'm talking about in general litigation. So, would you like, how should one deal with the fact that all your peers going to be placed in big law firms and you're still sitting in a chamber reading files and not getting that much pay? So, how one should deal with that?
You're still in law school or you've passed out, Sanskriti?
So I'm in my 5th year and I am planning to start practicing in Delhi High Court, but I can feel
You've
that
in fact missed out a couple of things. Some of your friends are also going to party in fancy restaurants while you'll be sitting at home because you don't have so much of money left in your account. So
absolutely.
So we've been through that phase. We've tolerated that phase also in the earlier part of our careers. But the struggle pays off if you're consistent and you put in the requisite amount of effort with the due honesty in place in the long run. So, your question is very genuine. For example, I used to work very hard for 6 days a week in case I was not expected office on Sundays also. But on Sundays, I used to find that I have no money to join my friends who are working in law firms, even for coffee at a fancy restaurant, because I had no savings. So that is really frustrating, but times do change as years pass by. So you need to have that patience that things will work for you. Otherwise, different students have different backgrounds also. I'm cognizant to that also. But see, if you are into litigation, then for the first 2 years, you would have to be patient. Otherwise, we all have this feeling of missing out because our friends in law firms do get paid better initially, right? But as far as this pay disparity is concerned, I can assure you that once you make it, the roles do get reversed, right? The freedom that you have as a litigating lawyer and the financial stability and independence that you have as a litigating lawyer 10 years into practice is better than most of the people who are working in law firms, because every individual does not work in a tier 1 law firm or a law firm that does compensate so well. So if you are consistent and if you work hard, then as we say, fortune does favor the brave, and you might not get there instantly, but you will get there eventually if you are truthful to the cause that you are pursuing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so if Sanskriti's question is answered, so like, can we go with the FAQs?
Yes. We can proceed with the FAQs. We'll definitely deal with these questions, but let us cover regulatory litigation first, because that was the agenda of the session. We can take up general questions also if time permits.
Yes, sir. So we can take up the question in the chat box in the end. So that's fine.
Sure.
Okay. So the first 3 questions, I believe we have covered like most of it already.
Yes. So
yes. So we can skip this one. I guess we can go with the next slide. So there are like 4 questions here. So we'll go with the first one. What are the emerging career opportunities in regulatory litigation in India, and what are the different domains of law which are involved in the same?
Right. See, in 2013, I saw telecom law as an opportunity, right? I really wanted to get into telecom law. So after working for 1 year with different seniors, I joined my last senior, who was a specialist in telecom law. And then I worked with him for 3.5 years before he eventually got elevated, and I branched out as an independent lawyer. So you have to identify it for yourself, right? There's so many sectors like telecom law, energy law. The sector which is most thriving will depend on the point of time you pass out. For example, telecom law was really emerging 9 years ago, but now the sector has consolidated to a certain extent. With the 5G spectrum, of course, there are new players, but more or less the sector has consolidated. So you can look for other sectors which are opening up at the relevant point of time when you decide to venture into it, rather than I telling you that which would be the best sector for you to pursue regulatory litigation initially. And like I said, if as far as regulatory litigation is concerned, I just wanted to focus on the common thread which unites the basic principles which would unite any regulatory litigation in court. So if you are well versed with your basics, you can switch from one domain to another. Domain knowledge, etc., can be gained later on also. But if your pillars are strong, I believe switching from one domain to another won't be a problem. So the different domains are aviation law, telecom law, energy law, securities law, etc. There are a lot of domains. Then you will just come across it if you read. Does that answer this question? Shati?
Yes, sir. I guess. So anybody has any questions regarding these particular questions that we're discussing? You guys can like pitch in and ask things along these lines. But if there is like a completely different question, you can just put it in the chat box and we'll take that up. Yeah. So I'll go with the next one then. So it says that what is the scope of a career in a niche area of practice within regulatory litigation? So, and how has your experience, as in the regulatory litigation field been so far?
See, there are advantages and disadvantages also. The advantage is that once you gain some expertise, then age won't be a factor, right? Because it's a niche area, there would be less people who have that experience and expertise. So you can overcome that age barrier. But the disadvantage is, I won't call it a disadvantage, that would be a negative term, but what is expected of you is that you should be updated. For example, if your regulatory litigation involves a lot of domains, if you are in a particular domain, you have to be completely updated with that domain. A regulation comes out yesterday, you have to be totally in sync with the site of the regulator. You have to read it up and be ready to apply. You never know when the next client will come to you for an opinion on that, right? And since you are considered as an expert on the field, then they would expect you to know even a development which has taken place in the last hour and what implication that it can entail for that particular company. So you have to be very updated, right? So my experience has been that I try to keep myself extremely updated, especially with respect to telecom law, the area in which I'm practicing at the moment. And I'm also trying to branch out to other areas also. So it has been a fulfilling experience so far.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, so you did mention that you have to be very quick, you have to be updated, right? But what according to you is like the most critical skill set that is valued when it comes to regulatory litigation? And how do you think that a law student can acquire this skill set?
The most valuable skill set would be to gauge what impact a particular regulation can have with respect to a particular client. that would only come once you're handling a client, right? You should be totally in a position to understand how a new amendment can affect your client for whom you have appeared in court, etc. Right? Because there are certain clients who really bank upon you. So the skill set to foresee the impact which a particular regulation can have, that can only be garnered through experience, right? And that can only happen if you have your four foundational pillars in place, the 4 areas of law which I just pointed out. Only then you could be able to gauge the impact and apply your skill set. So I think as of now, for a law student, you only need to read and be really well versed with the principles involved in those areas of law. The rest can be acquired during your practice.
So next question is that how, according to you, is regulatory practice as an in-house lawyer different from regulatory litigation practice?
See, I am a litigation lawyer. I'm an advocate, but we do coordinate with a lot of regulatory teams, right? So regulatory teams are also most of them are also advocates, etc. But the experience is different in the sense that sometimes they don't have that skill set of a courtroom litigation, which you actually have to add on. For example, if a regulation or let's say any rule which a regulator has made affects him, so then then you have to put your thinking at in place. Suppose if that company wants to challenge it, what would be the best forum to challenge it, considering the enactment in place, because these regulatory teams might rely upon you. Otherwise, you can opt for both the careers depending on what you're more comfortable with. But if you offer a place in a regulatory team, then you would be required to actively represent with the government and the government departments and the regulatory bodies also. So you should be ready for that. It's not a desk job.
So the next question is that what are the subjects on which the law students ought to focus on for a career in regulatory litigation? Like, what should we focus when we are in the law school?
I've already covered it, I believe.
Okay.
This has already been covered, right? The 4 subjects which I already pointed out: constitutional law, administrative law, contract law, and interpretation of statutes as well as contracts.
Okay. So the next question is about when somebody wants to switch their career, they're like a general professional and they want to switch their career to regulatory litigation. So how do you think someone can do that?
Reading judgments, of course. If you are interested in the area of law, then you should, for example, let's say telecom. See, telecom, every year there's so many judgments of the TV Sat, etc. But the judgments of the Supreme Court are very rare on the subject. So you will find a handful of judgments which really affect that particular sector, and you can keep yourself updated. So once you are updated with the general judgments, and then the relevant regulations, etc., would also find place in that judgment, then you can start reading from the scratch. And then once you enter into any chamber, which, as I advised, which deals with that particular area of law, your journey would be very easy. So keep yourself updated with at least the Supreme Court judgments which deal with that particular sector, especially the latest ones.
Okay, so we'll go to the next set of questions. So, sir, we can, I guess, take questions from the chat box. Sir, so the first one is from Saksham. He says that what is your take on working as a consultant role in regulatory authorities like SEBI, RBI, etc., and how same is different from independent regulatory practice?
I'm not sure whether they have a consultant role. I would have to verify that. But SEBI conducts a proper law officer exam, if I'm correct. So it's a proper examination which you have to be qualified, qualify to be a law officer with SEBI. So different bodies conduct their own examinations, etc. In some bodies such as Career-A-Thon, there are some cases for legal officials, but those are also on a deputation basis. So that depends on authority to authority. So a specific authority has to be checked by you. SEBI, I'm quite certain that it conducts an exam for law officers. So it's a very good examination. So you have to be well versed with the syllabus, etc. And it's a good exam to qualify. And it's I know some people who are qualified at exam and are working there and are very satisfied with their job portfolio. So you can take these examinations if they are organized by that particular authority. I hope this answers your question, Saksham.
Saksham, you've raised your hand. Is there anything? Okay, so if you do not have anything to add, Saksham, we'll go with the next question, sir, which is from Shubham. He's asking that if somebody.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Saksham.
I have a follow-up question for sir regarding the same. Sir, I have read a notification released by PFRDA regarding the same was old, but they are hiring for the roles of officers and another role. So in that case, where the same is mentioned that it is not necessary to be enrolled in the bar. As far as a litigator, if we want to have our independent regulatory practice, we have to enroll ourselves in bar. So how you see the same in the case of litigation or coordination between the lawyer or a regulatory authority officer?
So I'm not aware about this notification of the PFRDA, which you pointed out, Sakshi. I'm just telling it to you in general. See, if you want to be a litigating lawyer, your journey would be very different as opposed to being on board with any of these organizations. So you would require a very different kind of a skill set as opposed to being with any of the bodies, because I believe most of these bodies might be conducting examinations. As I told you, SEBI, I'm pretty sure about. So,
yes.
So there's a different journey and a career path altogether, as far as my understanding goes.
Okay. Thank you for the answer, sir.
So if you, but I have known people. Like I said, a friend of mine was into active litigation practice who then qualified the SEBI examination, and he was quite happy with what he was doing. So after joining litigation, also people do take up examinations and then join a different profile. So that is a matter of personal calling and what you want to do, rather than someone guiding you on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the answer, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Saksham. Thank you, sir. I guess we can take the next question, which is by Shubham. And he's asking as to how one can enroll for panel of various institutions in the beginning.
What institution are you referring to, Shubham? Your question is a little vague. Can you please clarify?
Shubham is not here. We'll take the next one. Anurag, that's Anurag's question. Anurag, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, sir, Anurag's question was that after my 5-year graduation, what is the path to follow for pursuing a career in aviation law and related industries?
Aviation law as in litigation, or you want to be an in-house counsel with an aviation company?
Sir, with an aviation company, sir.
With an aviation company. I am a litigator, Anurag, but what I can do is that the most I can advise you is be well versed with different areas of aviation law in case you want to apply there. So they generally, what these companies do is they check both your general knowledge on general principles of law as well as domain knowledge. So keep your domain knowledge really updated, right? In case you want to apply in such companies. And then, like any company, you would have to be selected, and that all depends whether they have a vacancy or not. But as a law student aspiring to enter there, all you can do is to keep yourself updated at the moment.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Imran. So the next question is from Arman. Arman, are you here?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So sir, next is Arman's question. So Arman, do you want to address it to sir directly?
Sorry, ma'am. I'm outside and it's been raining heavily, so there is
No
problem.
issue right now. I've already, mentioned my question in the chat box.
Yes.
No. I read your question. So finding a senior of your choice is actually very difficult initially in the field, right? But all you can do is see. My advice to all of you would be, please don't sit idle. Even if you don't get your desired chamber at the beginning, please invest your time in some chamber and work, right? Then you can keep applying simultaneously in places where you actually wanted to apply in the first place. But don't sit idle, gain some experience, and you would definitely gain some value out of it. So it's difficult to find a senior in the beginning, but if you work and if you gain experience, then eventually you might get an opportunity and you might be fit enough or knowledgeable enough to capitalize on that opportunity. For example, if you just passed out of college and you don't get the desired senior of your choice, and then you sit idle, then if a senior is hiring someone with 1 year of experience, and then you're not updated, he would prefer someone else even when a vacancy arises. So keep working, right? Even if you don't get the desired senior initially. For example, a friend of mine wanted to join Mr. Gopal Subramaniam at the inception of his career, but there was no vacancy at that point of time. So he joined someone else, worked for a year or two, and then when the vacancy arose, he did get an opportunity to join him. But he himself says that the first 2 years laid the foundation of his joining that chamber. So he's also very grateful to his first chamber as well. So you might not find a vacancy in your desired senior chamber at the inception, but you should be ready for that eventuality whenever that vacancy arises, because there would be other candidates applying also. That you should be able to portray yourself in the best possible manner so that you can avail that opportunity. I hope this answers your question, Anurag. Sorry, Arman.
Yeah, he's replied in the chat box, sir. Sir, so we can take the next question.
Yes.
Yes.
Anurag's question. No, we've already taken.
Sir, we have answered. Yes, sir. We have already answered the question.
There's Mahesh's question. And he's asking that as a young advocate who wants to start litigation on his own without any senior support, how do we get clients in the initial years?
Honestly speaking, Mahesh, you would make things very difficult for your own self if you want to start on your own, right? First of all, without any experience, clients will not want to engage someone who has no experience, right? Who hasn't worked with someone. It's how should I put it? Many lawyers today want to start on their own, and many of them have started also and doing reasonably well also. But in the long run, it always pays off, right? For example, we have a kind of not only in litigation, we have a kind of a Guru Shishya Parampara tradition, a Guru Shishya tradition, a Guru disciple tradition in this country. So you will always be known by the name of the person who has taught you in the initial years, right? So you would always be known by the value of your senior. So, and in fact, and that will also help you in your later years. But for example, if you work with a senior who is well respected and has done his work with utmost dedication and honesty, people will also pass on that goodwill to you. In a way, they will also attribute that goodwill to you, and that will also help you later on. So I don't think that if starting litigation initially without a senior is something which would help you in the long run. I haven't done it because I didn't feel that it was the right thing to do for myself. So I cannot assist you as to how can you do it. But yes, there have been people who were from affluent backgrounds who set up their own offices with the support of their families at the very inception, and some of them are doing reasonably okay. But I will not be able to guide you as to how to do it on your own.
Mahesh, do you want to ask anything further with respect to this? Okay. So, sir, there's another question by Vashisht. Okay, Mahesh. By Vashisht. Vashisht is asking that, does a career in regulatory litigation help in a better career trajectory than working in the regulatory compliance domain of a law firm? And
that is completely,
yeah.
Sorry. You were saying something.
Yes, and how does regulatory litigation help to get a desired job in a law firm or a regulatory body with ample amount of practicing years in this domain?
I missed you in between, Kati. Can you just repeat the question?
Yes, sir. So
because it's not on the screen.
Yes. She actually, I guess, DM'd me. I just sent it on the screen, sir. By Vashisht. Does a career in regulatory litigation?
Once. All right. So, see, if you are good at regulatory litigation, I think you wouldn't want to join a law firm or a regulatory compliance domain, because it's a very intriguing area of law, and it's a very fulfilling area of law, right? So I would rather suggest that you do regulatory litigation if you want to be a regulatory litigator, rather than if you want to join a regulatory compliance domain of a law firm. I think that journey is very easy. I'm just some people would say I would assuming, but if you, for example, if you get into a regulatory compliance domain of a law firm initially, then you would grow organically. But doing regulatory litigation, which itself is so rigorous, and then joining the regulatory compliance domain of a law firm, that trajectory itself does not make any sense to me. Because why would you do something difficult to land up a position which you can very well get for yourself in the initial years only, without any experience in regulatory litigation? And that is not a prerequisite for that. So if you want a position in a regulatory compliance domain of a law firm, then keep applying. I'm sure whenever there's a vacancy, and if you have the requisite knowledge in place, law firms do consider you. I'm not saying it's an easy career option as you grow up, but only at the stage of inception. I don't think you require experience in regulatory litigation to be eligible to apply for a position in a law firm in the compliance domain. Am I clear?
Vashisht, that was your question. Is it clear? Do you have any follow-up questions? Okay. So there's this question by Princey as well. Princey is asking that, since initially for a period of 2 years, my practicing started in IBC. As on today, I want to work in other areas of law as well, like ADR, DRT, and my commercial matters. But as my background of 2 years is in IBC, only so I am facing issues in finding jobs, particularly to litigation matters, like including IBC ADR. How should I deal with this issue?
Princey, are you working in a law firm, or you are litigating under some senior, if I may ask?
Sir, I'm working in a law firm.
So you can switch to a place which deals in these areas of law, because I feel you are only 2 years into practice, and I don't think they would expect a great deal of domain knowledge from you at this stage if you want to switch to a different domain, right? If you have your concepts clear in the basics of IBC only, and they can gauge you that you're a hard-working lawyer, I do believe that a different law firm or a different seniors chamber would be happy to hire you, and that way you can expand your horizons into different areas of
So the issue is now, like I just mentioned, that I want to work, including IBC, I want to work in ADR, DRT matters also. But because my background is only of IBC, the firms are like, either you work only in IBC. If I'm not working only in IBC, then they are like treating me as totally as a fresher, and then then salary and all, everything goes away. And after 2 years, I can't compromise with my salary and all also.
So sometimes we do have to choose things. That's the sad part of it. Either you want to expand as a person. I know it's unfair. I'm not sure which firm is doing it. Who's not counting your experience, if it's a post qualification experience. But if you're not getting opportunities and you eagerly want to expand your horizons, then you can of course negotiate with them to at least count some experience of yours, because you're not a fresher, and it would be unfair to treat you like that. And I'm sure that if they're good people, they'll consider.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Great. Sir Sandeep is asking that what skills are required to make a good litigator? General question, but skills.
See, most of the people would say patience. You see, patience is something which you develop. It's not a skill, to be very honest with you. But one skill is that you have to be you have to work smart. You don't exactly have to work hard, but you have to work very smart in what you're doing, right? For example, if you are reading a file, see, it's necessary to go through every page of the file. But I know most of you must have appeared for the CLAT examination initially, right? So in the CLAT examination itself, certain skills were expected of you when you were writing that examination. For example, legal comprehensions, right? I felt that a person who is good at legal comprehensions would make the best litigating lawyer, because he knows how to go through volumes of documents within a few minutes, right? Because in legal comprehension, what we are expected to do is, that was a very preliminary exercise when we were about to join law school, but it's very underestimated. For example, we were only supposed to focus on the main issue, because the most of the contents of the paragraphs didn't make much of a difference. So what we were expected to do was get the essence out of it and focus on the main areas after going through that entire passage or an essay. So I believe that skill personally has worked for me if I have to go volumes of petitions. So I am fairly confident, even if there's a multiple volume petition, I can go through it within an hour, mark every page, mark every important line, because I have developed that skill set of a legal comprehension, which I imbibed when I appeared for CLAT around 15 years ago, or more than 14 years ago, and I have still put it into practice and developed it further. So I think if you can develop that skill set, so that would be really helpful for you in litigation. If you wanted one skill set, then of course the other things, oratory, etc., presence of mind, these things can develop later. But I think if, as law students, etc., something which you can focus on is this skill set.
Thank you so much, sir. Sandeep, anything else you would want to add? Ask a follow-up or something? Or anybody else is like, does someone have any other questions? We can take them up. So we had some additional questions as well. So the two additional questions that we had. So they were like, could you please describe the process of becoming an AOR? So these are not exactly those questions. AORs require a specific level of experience. Are any benefits associated with this prestigious position?
See, you require 4+1 years of experience to apply become eligible to appear in the examination. By 4+1, I mean 4 years into practice, plus 1 year training under an AOR with 10 years of experience. And then you become eligible to appear in the examination, right? And then you, once you qualify, the main privilege that you get is to file matters in the Supreme Court. You get to file your own wakalatnama in the Supreme Court. So that is the main benefit attached to it. The reason why I opted to become an AOR was not to be just a filing counsel, because I prefer to be have my own counsel practice eventually. My idea was that the passing the AOR exam helped me to cross that age barrier, right? Because once you once you qualify the AOR exam, people don't ask you how many years at the bar. It is apparent that you have a certain standing, that you qualified the examination and you're more than equipped to handle cases on your own. And I dealt with a lot of corporate companies, and once you give opinions, corporate companies, they also want to have a look at your profile, your credentials. And once you qualified that AOR exam, no one is actually bothered as to how many years at the standing at the bar you have at the moment. The credentials are taken care of.
Okay. So I guess that's the last question that we have according to the PPT, is that how should one begin practicing at the High Court or the Supreme Court, and what should be their basic approach and expectations?
See, basic approach should be that you should be there to learn, right? See, after 5 years into even after qualifying from law school, 5 years of studying in law school, once you enter into court, even if you've interned in so many firms or chambers, it's a completely different environment once you start practicing. So I would advise you to go out there as a fresh, clean slate and try to imbibe as much as possible and try to observe as much as possible. Try to learn from the experience of others and be humble, and that is one attribute which is required, irrespective of the fact how many years of standing at the bar you might have. The more humble you are, the more you grow in knowledge and eventually in stature also. But keep yourself grounded, and that is how you'll run, whether it's your first day in court or it's your nth number of year in court. It doesn't matter. And you should keep minimum expectations, although it would be a little difficult. We already need, we always need a certain amount of money to survive, and we all have those requirements. But if you want to enter into litigation, keeping your requirements to as basic a level as possible would really help you to survive in the initial years.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I guess, is there anything else that you would want to discuss and advise the audience about? Any final words?
I don't think there are any further questions. I think. So I don't want to detain you on a Saturday. I'm so sorry. I think we've lost time also.
Yes, this question by Mahesh, and he's asking about the difference between a notary officer and a oath commissioner, and how he can become one.
No, notary officer and
Sir, I believe you're on mute.
Sorry, am I audible now? So
yes,
yes. So the basic differences is that the basic essence of both the persons is that you require affidavits, etc., to be notarized and filed in court. Some courts are required to be attested by an oath commissioner rather than a notary officer to be filed. So it's not much of a difference. But I would suggest that everyone can aspire to become a notary officer on oath. Hello, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, but at the same point of time, apart from that, you should also focus on the areas of law which you want to specialize. That would give you a better standing in the profession. Although I have great regard for our notary officers and our commissioners also. But as law students, etc., you should also focus on your areas of law, such as the sessions on regulatory litigation and other areas of specialization also, because it's a wide horizon to be covered. Right? So, a lot of you are very anxious to enter into the profession, but and like I said, I was also very impatient and anxious also. But once you step into that arena, there's so much to learn, and there's so many things which are new every day, that the experience itself is really fulfilling. And if you are lucky to find a good senior who at least meets your basic needs and expectations with respect to your finances, I think it would be a wonderful journey as far as litigation is concerned.
I guess, Mahesh, your questions and everything is answered. Is there anything that anybody would want to ask before we close the session? Sir, in the meanwhile, if you would like, then is there anything that you would want to address to the audience?
Just follow your passion, whatever it is. I know earning money initially is everyone's desire, but see, choosing a profession is not only about money. See, money and what you'll earn is a major portion, which is a major factor with respect to your decision. But having a work-life balance, which really comes in litigation in the initial years, but the ability to control your time eventually is itself a big perk in litigation practice, which you might not get in law firms or an in-house position. So just don't I'm not saying money is not important or your financial needs are not important. They of course are very important, but don't choose a career only for how it compensates you monetarily. Look at it from a holistic perspective.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for this wonderful session. It was great having you, and it was great knowing about regulatory litigation and litigation per se. Yeah. So if there is nothing, then I guess we can end the session.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Arman.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask sir if how can we reach to him if we need further guidance through any email ID or something like that, if we can get.
Khyati, I'll leave my email ID on the text box if anyone wants to get in touch, or I'm available on LinkedIn also, and I usually reply to messages on LinkedIn if those messages pertain to something which have already not been answered in my general course. I do reply to them personally. So those personal. So you can just send me a text on LinkedIn also. No problem.
Oh, sure, sir. Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.